Sweet. Hit record. I guess first video, so see how we go. We were just chatting before. It's been, I think, would say like 2-3 years since we last spoke. And I think a bit.
Feel free to go back to an earlier episode.
If anyone's listening, like, I think it was 2-3 years ago. I'll link our first chat so people can check that out, because I think that went more about, we chatted more about like your upbringing and New Zealand and that sort of thing.
Well, I'm really bad at repeating stories, so I like went back and listened to it today.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was like,
I've got about 20 stories, and I just tell the same stories all the time. So I was like, I better pick the other 10 for this podcast.
I was going to listen to it, but then I thought, I don't want to like get in that headspace. Like, I just want it to be
100%. I think there's only so much of my own voice I can listen to.
I guess I'll start because like, what sort of the last couple of years, what have they sort of brought? Any changes that you felt personally or in your filmmaking? I know obviously you've worked with like Civic a lot more now, and which we'll chat about, and Grace Cummings, doing all that.
It's kind of funny you pointed out in the last one that I was like, I want to work with Grace Cummings at some point. Now I've done a couple of videos for her, and through that I've got some other ideas that I want to do with her later on, and that's kind of my favorite thing about being a filmmaker, is you can just pick people that you want to work with. Or hopefully, I can be like, I like her music, so I can make some videos for her. So
is that how that worked?
I just hit her up, and then through that we did like a Amyl and Sniffers clip just recently.
I didn't. Yeah,
they were down at the Sydney My Music Bowl, and I got a phone call from their manager on Thursday, being like, yo, can you get a crew together and film this concert at Sydney My Music Bowl in front of 9,000 people tomorrow night? And I was of course, you can't say no to that. So we went down, we had a crew, like filmed someone Super 8, and we had 2 areas running around and got some of the crowd footage and stuff like that. And kudos to Amy. I heard from her manager, said that Amy took her aside. This is before they go on stage, and was like, how much is James getting paid for this? And then the manager told her, and she was like, it's not enough. Get him more money. So
that's incredible.
So she really, respect to Amy. That's
amazing.
That's sick. So she lives up to the hype, I reckon. So,
they're great, man. I haven't seen them live yet, but I've been meaning to.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. There was like 9,000 fucking people there, and I've never been to a concert where you look in the crowd and you just see that many people that are fucking in love with someone. Like, literally, everyone's just got this look on their face, like they're fucking like they're in love. So I was like, all right, fair play to them, so it's cool.
So that was just a last minute sort of thing too. That's cool. It happens like that.
Yeah, super fucking.
Just word of mouth. Like, do you feel like you're getting your name out a bit? Like, just with your obviously working with Civic, and it just sort of snowballs. Do you feel that with filmmaking or music making or whatever?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that was because the same manager as Grace Cummings.
Oh, right.
So she was just like, we can get this dude on board. So that was, I think that's how that worked.
Yeah.
But I think getting the name out there a bit, which is like, we've got more projects sort of coming up, like doing a thing for this streetwear label coming up soon, like a hip hop sort of vibe thing, and just kind of fun. Heaps of like little projects and stuff like that, which has been cool.
So the Grace thing sort of just came from you hitting her up.
Yeah.
Do you find, like, is that how you, like you said, like if there is someone that you want to work with, you just hit him up and see if you get something out of it.
So and you should do the same.
I guess it's the same with this too. Like, if I'm interested in someone, you just and see what happens.
100%, man. So
that's great, man. What do you think, like, since sort of last speaking, has there been any big shifts for you personally? If it's filmmaking or like
hugely. I think last time you spoke to me, I was like playing in a band, and like I was still like quite in the punk scene. I'm kind of like pulled out of that quite a bit now. I think the band's dissipated, and we sort of like all went off in our different directions a bit. And I think it was like, I just sort of just picked a handful of people that I think are like positive people to have around myself, and just surrounded myself with those people a little bit. Which is like, I think like there's definitely like, I'm sort of choosing the people that are keeping my life a little bit stronger now. Like, but I'm also a massive introvert, so there's also people I really love that I haven't seen in ages. But I think I was just at a bit of a detox,
Yeah, because obviously you've moved to a different side of town, so that probably.
I live in this apartment with my girlfriend now. So Yeah, got like a cat called Munchkin.
That's great.
He's an absolute little cunt.
Yeah, crazy. So do you feel being introverted like sort of drew you to filmmaking? You know how like some people more, you know, that might, if it's in the arts or writing or whatever, just having those ideas going, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny, I think, like, because I've always liked performing, like being the center of attention a little bit on stage. And then you get off stage and people are like, oh, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm just like, all right, just leave me alone a little bit. I want to, you know, I like being the center of attention a little bit. But then, you know, I think it's like, I kind of feel like what draws me to art a bit is sometimes you have a conversation, like small talk and that sort of stuff, or, you know, it can be like, you're not really connecting with anyone at any point. I feel like when you make an artwork, like it's a different type of language, and I think when a piece of art is really good, like then you're really connecting with a person on a different level, and I think there's something that draws me to art a bit more than as a language form, you know. So I think that's why I've always enjoyed making art. So I feel like that is a way that I can communicate and sort of connect with people. Yeah,
on that deeper level. Because you don't get that a lot of the time.
Yeah, the amount of times you know, there might be someone that you really care about, and then you just have these like drivelly conversations that is so like, you know, it's just
when you want to get to the center of like,
you know what I mean? Like, especially for someone that you really care about, you know, and you want to connect with them in a way that's, you know, it's so clumsy language, you know, like the amount of times you just hear just verbal diarrhea coming out of your mouth, you know. Probably gonna get that feeling at some point during this interview.
I often think that. I often think like even interviewing people would, like if it waters it down a bit, because like the art speaks for itself. Yeah. When you start talking about it, I feel like you just go, which is can be a good thing too, but it sort of just goes in like circles a bit. I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you trying to sort of explain like one of your videos or films, like that's so, you know. Yeah, or like you hear a song, you know, you hear like fucking Fleetwood Mac or something, and it's just like you don't even know what the hell she's talking about, but she's saying something that you're just like, oh, she's saying this exact thing that I'm not able to communicate. Or like a lot of music, it's kind of like that, where you're just they're saying something that you want to say, or like and it's pretty cool that you can bring like that, like you feel something about a certain artist like Grace Cummings or whatever, and then you can bring your way of non-verbal of like filmmaking, because that's not really, you're speaking through like shots and shit like that. And that's kind of like my language, and it's all just different languages. We're saying the same fucking thing, you know. Like I think you know, a good song and a good painting is just, it's the same thing from different perspectives. I think. But I'm writing a lot at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. Like just journaling, or just I've written like a book. Oh shit! Tell us about that. I've written like a whole book. It's like it's called Songs of Burning Birds, and it's like a Southern Gothic set in Australia. It's like basically it was that Prayers on Fire concept that was like that I'd been working on, and then sort of got to this point where I was like, man, no one's gonna give me like fucking millions of dollars to make this, but I was really stoked on the story, and the story is kind of a lot about my thoughts on a lot of things and about myself. So I was just like, fuck, I'll just, as a way to keep being creative, I was like, fuck, I'll just write it as a novel. So I've spent the last like year and a half writing this novel, and it's like, I think it's like, I finished it, but I'm just sort of like expanding it out in places, and like I print it out and then I'd go through it and then say expand here, and I've just that's been like, that's what I was doing today. I was just in the library, in the Melbourne Central Library. Just I was like, you can see Ned Kelly's his armor is in the corner of the library, like where I'm working. You can look over and you can see it. So fucking incredible. I love that space. It's like kind of inspiring. Like I got this place, but I hardly ever come in here, you know. Do you find like, but that's like obviously environment plays a big factor. Because I always find that interesting, like the relationship of like environment and like how you feel and being creative or whatever. I have to get out of the house to like feel creative, you know. Like really? I'm here and I'm just like final draft, Instagram, Pornhub, you know. You know what I mean? It's just like you can't do that shit in the Melbourne Central Library. So. You're like locked in differently. So and you got the guilt. You're surrounded by like, you know, uni students, people that work on stuff. And then if you like, you know, if you're looking at Instagram on your phone, you feel like you're an asshole. You're taking up a seat that someone else can be sitting on. You know, so it's like like I spent like
4.5 hours writing today, you know, like
Shit.
in that space,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
has been really good. And like the other day I spent even longer, and it's just been like, you just go mental with it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
hyper fixating on it. It's been so much fun.
It's crazy, man. And do you feel the same? Does it give you the same sort of feelings? Is it a similar outlet as when you're filmmaking? Or is it very similar? Or is it just like another thing to...
100%. And it's like, you know, it's a whole world, and like you get to know the characters, and like I like, you know, and you might be reading another book and you love the way that a character's talking and stuff like that, and you can just pull things in, or ideas, or you hear a story from, you know, there's a fair bit of like my family history that's sort of tied into it with like
New Zealand and shit?
or there's like there's a character in it that comes out on a convict ship from Dublin to Australia.
Yeah.
And his convict ship was like known as the most brutal of all the convict ships, and like there were people that were whipped to death on the boat, and there was like they tried to start a mutiny on board it, and like off the coast of Brazil, and then the captain found out about it and just parked the boat in the middle of the ocean, just whipped like 7 people to death, like 700 lashes, and it was like, and then, you know, he comes on shore in Australia, and it's like, you know, so I think so I combined that story that's in it, and then there's like a few other elements. Like there's my girlfriend's Irish, and we she's been telling me a few stories about places back home. Like there's this place, the Hellfire Club, and it's this it used to be like an old Celtic ruin, and then this guy comes along, and he's a fucking real piece of shit, and he builds a building right on top of it, of this Celtic ruin, and then he chips up one of the ancient stones and then puts it on his fireplace as like the lintel on top of the fireplace, and then he has these like crazy parties there, and they're all like, people say that there's like all this spooky stuff going on there, and then the roof blew off the building, and everyone in Dublin was just like, well, it's the devil's blown the roof off his building. And then there's all these stories surrounding it, like someone says that there was this guy, and he turned up to this place, and it was known as the Hellfire Club, and they have these secret like debaucherous parties, and they were playing cards, and he drops one of his cards, and he leans down to pick it up, and then he looks under the table, and there's one of the people that's playing cards with has cloven hooves.
Oh,
These sort of,
those, it was like that folklore, like when we talk about like blind boys stories, or Irish like mythology, whatever you want to call it, folklore sort of, that gets passed down.
So I'm sort of mixing a bunch of that sort of stuff into my writing and stuff as well, which has just been an absolute buzz. So and then combining that with a bunch of more Australian-centric sort of things as well. So you can just do whatever the fuck you want. You know, when you're writing, you don't have to be like, oh, the logistics of this shot or whatever. But
did it take time to get sort of your style of writing? Something I've never, like, I've only ever written more journaling and stuff like that, but how do you feel? Like, is it a lot of just editing?
I think like, because when I was at art school, there was like I was doing a lot of like artworks that were surrounding certain topics and themes that I found interesting. Like there was like, I did a few works around religion and stuff like that. Like there was actually one where they took all us students into a room, and they put a map of Melbourne up on the wall, and you have to throw a dart at the wall, and wherever the dart lands, you have to make an artwork around that space. And my dart landed on just near St. James Cathedral in the centre of Melbourne. So I went along there, and I just turned up at this cathedral, and I started speaking to the priest and all the different people that worked there, and I was like, can I interview you guys? So I sat down and I interviewed the priest and 2 other people that worked there, and talking about their thoughts on, you know, like life after death and spirituality, and if they've ever had any like supernatural experiences, or if they've ever seen God or had any sort of, or, you know, these sort of deeper experiences. And then they were surprisingly like doubtful. They were like, oh, you know, that's like, you know, like, you know, even me as a priest, I, you know, have my doubts every now and again. What am I doing with my life and stuff like that? And then he invited me along to a Sunday service, and I went along to that, and I met this dude, and he used to be a junkie, and then he had this dream about like turning up in this garden and walking down past all these trees, and he sees Jesus at the end of it, having this big sort of party with all these people. They're eating food, and he goes and he sits down with Jesus and has this big chat. And then like a few weeks later, he was in a like an op shop, and he sees a painting of this exact dream that he's had.
Crazy.
And then the book finishes with like a photograph of this guy holding up this painting. I've got it just up here. I'll show you after. But anyway, so like I was rambling a bit, but the all the works that I did was surrounding sort of death and there's certain types of imagery that sort of appeal to me, or things that I find interesting. And
because you're always, it feels like your work is so like it hits deep, like a lot of, you know what I mean? It's on service level.
Yeah,
like I know every time I watch one of you, if it's a music video trailer, like you're going to the core of things, like, and you've talked about it like when we first chatted of like, death, afterlife, dreams, like the subconscious, whatever you want to call it, you know, whatever that, all that categorizes, you know. Like,
that's just like the most important thing, really, right? You know, and I think, just to finish off that last point, I said to my tutor, I keep making the same sort of shit all the time. I was like, and he says, oh, whatever those themes that keep popping up in all your music and all your art and all that, that's you, and that's who you are at the core of, and these sort of deep subconsciously. So I was like, all right, I'll keep going with that.
And you still have, like, that's
So I was just like, that's the most interesting thing for me. And you just got to sort of, like, it's one thing to tell someone to be truthful to themselves, but then what is your own truth? Like, what's not just a fucking persona you're putting on? So I think art school helped me sort of find my interests and what I'm interested in, and things that sort of jump out at me, and then naturally you trying these things from different perspectives. And, you know, I think naturally find your voice a little bit through doing that. I think.
Do you think it's just time? Like,
I think.
Do you think it's just like doing, like when you think of a outlet or whatever it may be, it's just the time doing something? Like,
the more time, every time you create something, it's just like, you know, it's like another little piece of the puzzle coming out, and you never figure it out. But I think there's something, I reckon if at the end of your life, if you've done, you know, 10,000 paintings, I think at the end of it, no matter what they're of, it's a self-portrait of your whole life, you know. So, and
leaving something behind too. Do you think much about that? Like having stuff left behind after you go, like, you know, all your work and continue, like it's there on the internet, whatever it may be.
A little stories, bit. I think the more I think about it, I think the more I do it more to connect with other people. I think like I want someone else to look at something I do and then and feel like it connects to them in some way. I think that's more important to me. Like that like communication with someone, I think, is more important to me than some sort of legacy, you know. Because I think at some point there's going to be that Vimeo link of like a film that I made or whatever, and someone will press play for the last time and no one will ever watch it again, and it'll feel like it never happened, you know. And, but I think I think, you know, it's that, you know, being afraid of death or whatever that people were, you know. I think like artwork's like a tombstone or something, you know. It's just, you're just desperate to try hang on to life, but you just got to let it go.
Because like I also hear like when, you know, when you create too, and when you put it out, it is also like a mini death in a way. Like, I don't know if you feel that, like, let's say you've been working on something for a year, 2, 5 years, however long, and then it's like, it's finished. It's like, do you feel like a mini?
100%. You spend your whole life trying to get to the end, and then you realize that the end's the shittest bit. And it's like, it's so satisfying when it's still in your imagination, you know. But 100%. That's how I agree with that. That it's just like you never have the thing, but you have it the whole time. You know what I mean? Like in life, you kind of always have the thing that you're striving for, I think. But, you know, like if I won a fucking Oscar for some film or something, and then everyone's chanting my name, and then I get fucking crowd surfed out of the place, and then like everyone's like, James, then I get in a limousine and it takes me to the airport, and I go home, and like I still wake up Monday morning. And
you're still with yourself.
You like go to Christmas and people are like, oh, how did that Oscar thing go? I won it, you know. And they're like, oh, that's so cool, you know. Well, so what else have you been up to, you know? It's like, it doesn't mean anything, you know?
It's funny how that works.
I think this outside validation is just like, I don't know. I think it's, but you know, like I'm on a podcast talking about myself, hoping that people listen to me. You know, it's like I'm still fucking arrogant.
I think like there's an element of like wanting to be a little like getting like recognized, but then there's that level of like you're doing it. Some people doing for the wrong reasons, maybe, of like you know, like wanting that.
It should be a way to communicate with people. I think you know, that's how I feel. And
that continues. I guess. And then I guess you always attract like people that feel similar to you about things, if it's and then they want to work with you, and then that just like continues to grow, you know what I mean?
Man,
which is like
I think art should be like a way to sort of say something, and then hopefully someone says something back to you at some point, you know. It's like a religion for people that aren't religious, you know. It's kind of how I think of it. It's like you know, connecting to everyone else around you, if you know, if you're not necessarily believing anything.
And it's also coming from a space that is like, you know, where does it come from, like that whole thing?
I think it's kind of our last thing left is like Western culture as well. A bit. This is my like tinfoil hat thing,
go,
right?
Go. I want to hear it. Yeah.
It's like,
you reckon? Like, well,
yeah. So I got this thing. It's like, I think there's this like existential fucking loneliness in the Western world, and that's why everyone's so fucked up. That's why you got like all these, you know, right-wing nut jobs and whoever nut jobs, you know, like all the MAGA and all that. It's just because everyone's so fucking disconnected. We've like, well, like there's this like general existential loneliness in the Western world, and I think it's like we've lost our connection with the land. Like we don't understand like the land. We've lost our connection with family. Like I think people move out of home and then forget about their family, and then I think we've lost our connection with spirituality. Like no one goes to church, no one believes in God or anything anymore. You know, like we're running out of things. You know, we've like, I think like, you know, even like men and women, like more feels so separate. You know, there's all this woman hating and there's all this man hating and stuff. And I think everyone's just so fucking disconnected, and all we're left with is just ourselves. And then we're like, who the fuck am I? And that's why, like, you know, we're all on Instagram trying to like be like, oh, look at me, because we're
there's nothing.
Because we've got no connection to anything. We've got no like point of reference for who the fuck we are. I think like there's this feeling through the whole Western world that we're like, when we're separate from the whole planet. Whereas I think, you know, it's things like indigenous cultures or things like that, they've got a connection to land, they've got a connection to family, to spirituality, basically everything that we're fucking missing.
Yeah, man.
So I think we're fucked it.
No, I agree, man. I think about that shit all the time.
Yeah.
Just how disconnected we are, really.
Yeah.
And then, but, you know, we think we're sort of happier with, like, we got so much more, and we're not happier, you know?
Nah.
Like, we got, you could have, and like, you could Google anything, get anything within a day, like, but if you don't have, like, family, you're not connected to the earth, like, what else? Like, that's that's why I think, like, simplifying things is, like, whenever I feel overwhelmed and shit, I'm always, like, just, like, going back to, like, the basics of whatever that is.
My dad actually said a real nice thing to me the other day. He goes, I was telling him about, I think it was for the Amyl and Sniffers thing. I was just like, oh, you know, I got this film thing coming up. It's pretty exciting. There's going to be all these people there, blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to him on the phone, and he goes, yeah, that's pretty interesting, but just want to let you know, like, none of us give a shit. He's like, it's interesting. It's a good story, and it's kind of a fun thing that you're doing, but like it's like, you know, it's just an interesting thing that you're doing. It's like irrelevant to who you are. And I was like, what? He's like, we don't. It's like, it sounds real mean for him to be like, we don't give a shit. But what he's really saying is like, we don't care about you more or less because you're doing something that makes for a good story. You know? So, it was like conditional love versus unconditional love, I think. Which is, it was like one of the nicest things my dad's ever said to me. He doesn't give a shit about my filmmaking. So I thought, you know, it's quite nice.
I think that also goes back to like whatever you make doesn't like reflect who you are to the core. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like you could win that Oscar. Yeah. You could make 10 shitty films or have one good one and 5 bad, like whatever it is, like that doesn't.
You're not anymore.
Like, you know, like to the core, like when you talk about spirituality and like who we are, but like beyond like personality and all that shit. Yeah. Like,
like whoever's watching this is like just as valid as fucking, you know, Mick Jagger. You know what I mean? Like we're all on a rock flying through space and the sun's going to explode and we're all going to die. Like, so we're all equally of importance. You know, like no one is more or less important than anyone else. It's like, which is zero. Yeah. You know, we're zero importance, but I think we got this in our head. We've got a hierarchy that some people are more important than others, but you know,
because we see them maybe on the screen every day more, you know, and we think that has more importance. And
it doesn't mean shit, you know. Like fucking, I don't know, you know, who's cool? I don't know, fucking. Some famous person still takes a shit in the morning, you know. It's like like doesn't people, mean, you know, like Albert Einstein still fucking stubbed his toe and said something wrong, said some dumb thing to do with fart or something, you know. Like,
or that everyone puts on. I think I heard like that thing of like everyone puts on their pants, you know, or it puts on their shoes one shoe at a time, you know. It's not like anything's happening any differently for anyone.
Like driving to work and you realize there's a sock in your pants still.
Shit like that. Like. I think it's good to remind yourself of like that, and that like it isn't about like that image thing. Really.
And there's all that Instagram culture and shit, which is I know is so ironic because I said we should film this so we can put it on Instagram so you get more followers. You know, I'm full of shit, but like, but I think it's just we're marketing ourselves like we're a fucking product. You know,
that's what it is. Everything's
sad, isn't it?
Everything getting marked.
And we get a mark, and your value is the amount of numbers of people that are following you. You know, it's like it's pretty like if you pitched this idea to someone 200 years ago, they'd be like, that's fucking depressing. What a way to live your life.
I was watching, have you ever watched that BBC documentary? It was, I can't remember, I think Center of the Self or something.
No.
And it just goes in about how sort of consumerism started and how Freud's nephew like brought it in. It was crazy. It's all like psychological.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of that?
And about the woman smoking.
Yeah.
All right. You should just say it because someone might not know it.
I think it's Center of the Self. You can find it on YouTube. It's a BBC documentary. But yeah, it just goes on about how Freud, like a lot of Freud's ideas, his nephew brought to like America just before like World War II. It's not just that whole like how that was brought
manipulating people.
Yeah, but, and how it's all about like because I think through like the 30s, 40s, and that sort of thing, it was more about like they would just sell you the product like because it's built well or something like that. Like buy this microphone because it's a good built microphone. But then there was that transition of like buy this microphone because this X person has it, or because it will make you feel better.
And that's kind of like how fashion really started as well. And then the whole smoking thing was that there was at least cigarette companies came to him and said, oh, we want to make more money. So he sort of got these like really like influential women to like smoke cigarettes in a parade or something like and then all of a sudden people see it as this like rebellious like feminist sort of thing, and really he's just like, great, now twice as many people smoke cigarettes, and the cigarette companies are going, yeah, sweet, you know? So which is, I don't know how we got on that topic, but
I don't even know how I think we're just talking, I don't even know, I just think marketing and shit like that. But so that doesn't, I mean that sort of crosses everyone's mind, I think, when you create like that, of like how people will view it. But I think you can't sort of come like have it be everything and get lost in that, because then like you'll stop doing something because you didn't get the right validation. You know, like I don't know, man. It's fucking crazy.
I should have smoked a big joint before
I guess, did you want to talk about I mean, I'm trying to go back and forth because a lot has happened in 3 years, like for yourself, like I guess the Civic sort of stuff. Did you want to talk on that? Because I know
so we went down to Mona with with Civic. They asked me to film like a behind the scenes sort of thing about the making of their new album, and so we flew down there and then filmed a bunch of stuff. But while I was down there, I was just like, I was having these conversations with them, and I was just like, we could make this so much more interesting. So we like, I just started sort of asking them questions about, just like deeper sort of thoughts, and like, Jim's mum passed away recently, and then, he talked about that a bit, and we've got some like, just really interesting, a bit more like in-depth conversations about just life and things like that. And I just wasn't that interested in being like, so when did you first learn playing the guitar? When did you, like,
all that sort
of stuff. I don't know. I just felt a bit contrived and not something I was that interested in. So I wanted to make it much more interesting. So we've created a fundraiser. So if you go to my Instagram page, James Gorter Film, it's in my bio, and we're doing a bit of a fundraiser for that, of trying to get some money to finish it off, because we've done half of it. We shot everything down in Tassie, and we had like full access to the whole museum, and we're like walking around through the museum past all these amazing artworks and up the stairwells. And have you been down there? It's like a
no, I've never been. I've been meaning to go to Tassie.
Full beautiful labyrinth, and we're walking through that, chatting with them and stuff. So so we're just trying to raise a bit of money to finish it off, because I'm like, we're sort of at this weird point where we're like, well, we haven't finished it, and we can't put it out as it is, but we can't, So we just, if anyone out there, like, go to my link, and
we'll put the links.
That'd be nice. Yeah,
people can check it out. So that would have been a pretty special experience doing that, because obviously you've done a bunch of music videos for him and that sort of thing.
And just being at Mona, I love Mona, man. It's a beautiful place.
Had you been to Tassie before?
Yeah. I've been down there a few times, and went to Dark Mofo with my girlfriend. It's awesome, man. It feels like you're on an acid trip the whole time you're down there. It's real, super intense. I loved it.
Yeah. So a lot of filming out there. And then I know you mentioned, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but like you mentioned, I mean, you sort of just mentioned it briefly then too, of like how it just randomly came up that each member of Civic just ended up talking or reflecting about their dads or fathers. Like, what was that? Was that like a moment of like when something sort of, you have this idea but then it becomes something else, like it just happens? Like,
you just sort of got to follow like what naturally happens. But I think there's something quite interesting in that about, like, I think you eventually turn into your dad over time, and then they're just sort of like, there just happened to be this coincidence that kept popping up. Like the drummer, his dad was one of the first ever like guys playing rock and roll in Kathmandu, because he's Nepalese, and it's these amazing like docker from the 90s where his dad's sitting there with like a Black Sabbath shirt and the John Lennon circle glasses in Kathmandu, like doing a main solo in the square, and like that sort of footage. And then like you know, like Jim's talking about his dad and, you know, the relationship with his mum passing and things like that. And then Lewis is talking about his father a bit, and because his dad used to play in like a rock and roll band back in the 70s in Melbourne and stuff like that. So it just was a bit of a theme that kept popping up. You know, and just who we turn into, which is quite something quite cool in that. I think we're just gonna do it as a short 20-minute thing. But I think like just have it just punchy as the whole time.
So you did some interviews and stuff, you were saying?
Yeah, we've done some interviews, just sit down, kind of like what we're doing now. And then I think that's going to narrate it a bit, and then we've just got some footage to go over top of that. So we're going to do like 5 little mini scenes. So I really want to get Kieran, because Kieran Callanan was in it. He produced it. And I got this shot. I want to get him on a horse out in that, like in the bush out in Australia, like out in the Wops. And they just like have a bit of a smoke machine, and then just film it at night with like a spotlight on him as he travels around, and he's like talking to the camera on horseback, maybe in like a night costume or something. Like,
just those ideas. That,
I just think in my head visually, I think that should be pretty interesting. So.
Did you reflect personally with that the father thing? Like, did that also make you think? Because obviously, like, you're doing that. I mean. Is that something that makes you want to talk?
As I'm getting older, I'm just like really reflecting on who the fuck I am. Like, and you know, I look at my dad, and like, you know, I'm just sort of sit like him, sort of talk like him. I'm like, you know, I think we're different in a lot of ways. Like, but I do think there's a few things he says, and I'm like, oh shit, this is like a glimpse into me down the track, and, you know, in good ways and bad. And I think, and you know, like he's a good dude, and. You know, now I'm starting to get to the age where I'm thinking about having a kid myself. You know, me and my girlfriend are starting to talk about kids, because I'm getting old now. You know? So I'm like, now's a good time. I'm in a comfortable space. My biggest fear is that it's going to like impact on making films, that I can't like be creative, because at the moment I'm taking 2 days a week off, taking Mondays and Wednesdays, and I'm just writing heaps, or like working on films or whatever. So.
Because that becomes like your whole world then. Like,
man.
Do you think? Because
But like then I thought about it, and I was like, fuck. The whole reason I make art is to try like connect with someone. And then like if I don't have a kid, which is kind of the most meaningful way you can connect with another
people,
human, and if I don't have a kid, then I'm like, I'm full of shit, and like the whole reason I'm like making art is to suck my own dick. You know what I mean? So I'm like, it's just got to not be about ego. It's got to, you know. So I think having kids, but I'm kind of excited about the idea of caring about something more outside myself, you know, because we spend our whole lives just
constantly.
It's
like
embarrassing. It's like, you know, we're just so obsessed with ourselves.
Even like the mind, just always thinking, like it never stops.
Man.
Just like constantly. But to be able to care for someone, and I'm sure like if you ever have a kid, like different ideas or different perspectives will come into your art from having a kid that you wouldn't get like now. You know, it's like there's no good or bad. Like
I think so. And so I'm just trying to be a fucking, you know, a person worthy of being a father. You know, just trying to sort my shit out a bit. I'm trying to like, you know, just be a better person. It's like kind of a bit of a goal over the last few years. I was at a party a few years ago, and I was pissed, and I was, you know, I had all my leather jackets on. I was like, idiot, and then. This girl Lace, she's like an old friend of mine, she comes up to me and she goes, this is the most fucking boring part of your personality. She goes, I hate, like, she was like, it's cool that you're into music and art and all that sort of stuff, but she's like, this is the most boring part of you. And I was like, and then I woke up the next morning, I was like, all right, and I pretty much haven't got proper pissed since then. You know, like that was like 4 years ago. So I'm like, I still drank, but I don't.
It just shifted after that.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, she's right, and I sort of took it as a compliment. I was like, yeah, fucking, that dude sucks. You don't want to be that
part. Because it brings out another.
It's like a dumb vision. I remember I was like, I was seeing this girl a few years ago, and it was about like. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks after seeing each other, and she goes, oh, you went to university? And she goes, I thought you were an idiot. And she was like, the whole time I knew you, I thought you were real dumb.
And then you were doing an arts degree.
Like, this fucking, what am I doing? It's a stupid personality or persona or whatever, you know. You know, when you put on the leather jacket and boots and stuff, you feel like you've got something to live up to, you know. It's like, you got to drop all that shit, man. It's embarrassing. So
you're constantly reflecting on all that shit.
yeah,
I mean, I guess yeah.
I'm trying to. I'm just trying to be a good person, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
what does that mean when you like think of that? You know,
I just like I'm trying to be like more like.
Is there things like you actively try, or is it with
well,
your work? Or?
Even like in my relationship with my girlfriend, you know, I'm trying to be like present more. You know, like I think that's kind of a bit of a relationship hot tip is that when you're with a partner and she says something funny, or we're sitting outside and we're like having a drink and I don't know, look over and she's just like just smiling at something, or you know, and you just be in the moment. You go, remember this is good, and like, you know, it's like mindfully loving someone, you know. It's like every now and again you go, be in the moment and appreciate this. So I think that's something I'm trying to do, and just try to do it regularly. It's like just like being mindful about anything else. Be mindful in a relationship. It's like, you know, you just got to drop shit from the past and be like, here I am in the present. And in the present, you know, like this is a good thing, you know. Like even we're talking about fucking being crowd surfed out of the Oscars. I think like being down at the beach having a fucking Jameson in the boot of the car with my girlfriend, you know, down at Elwood Beach. I'm like, fuck, I'll probably be more long-term satisfied with that than I would be with fucking, you know, Robert De Niro giving me a pat on the butt when I walk out the door. You know?
That's good, man. Yeah, no, it's a simple. That's what, like when you're talking about like indigenous culture, or like getting back to the earth, or whatever all that. Like I think it is that simplicity of like going for a walk with someone you love, or being at the beach, or just like, it's a cliche cheesy shit, but I think it's like the most with everything else being so chaotic and like trying to prove yourself to people. Like I think that's like, it's
almost like a protesting. It's, you know,
it's
like you're saying, you know, look, fuck this like negative shit. It doesn't have to be that way. Like I think everything is negative, but you know, everything's also really like beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
All right, just another tinfoil hat thing. So I was like, I was at work years ago, and my
painting.
Painting. And my girlfriend messages me, and she goes, "Oh, check out these," and it's those photos from the James Webb telescope that was looking out at space. You know, there's real beautiful shots of space.
Wait, they were online or something?
Yeah, it was like real famous. There was like the ultimate telescope that looked out at all the stars, and it had these like shockingly cool photos of fucking galaxies and shit. And at the time, I was listening to Edith Piaf on my headphones, and I was looking at it, and I was like, fuck, you know what? Like, there was the Big Bang, and then all these planets and stars came out of it, and like Edith Piaf is actually part of the universe, and I'm actually listening to the sound of the universe. Is like Edith Piaf is actually the sound of what I'm looking at right here. Like that's the noise the universe makes. And I was like, and then I thought about it a bit further, and I was like, yeah, so is fucking Who Let the Dogs Out. You know, you know, that like the universe is beautiful, but it's also fucking stupid. It's like, you know, like you can't just pick and choose. Like it's like it is really dumb, or it's like.
Do you think that always like? I often think like everything like being simultaneously there. You know, like the good and bad. Like like it's. I think everything I'm getting at is like it's all like a paradox, really. Yeah. In a sense, like I don't know, like you can like you can be down at the beach and with whoever and have like a beautiful moment, but then at the same time knowing, like you might not be consciously thinking this, but knowing that there's people all around the world suffering, or there's a war, you know what I mean? But still being able to like enjoy that moment, but not like, get you know, I don't know, that's a tough battle.
100%. It's that's been hard for me lately, man. Fucking where the world's at the moment, I'm like, it's like, it is obviously still important to make art, but it's bumming me out, man. I was like, I was looking at my phone, and I was like seeing some stuff from like Gaza, you know, that Trump Gaza thing, and I was looking at it, and I was like, how the fuck could these people feel comfortable living in a city that's just built on the bones of millions or thousands of fucking dead kids? You know, like to have a genocide and then take someone's land and then like live on top of where they lived. You know, you're going to be cursed forever. How the fuck could you ever feel comfortable with that? And then I went, wait, I'm a white man in Australia. We did the fucking same thing, man. I'm like, and if anything, it helped me. Like, I was like, fuck. It helps. Like, it sounds stupid, but it helps contextualize colonization and how fucked up it is. But I was just like, oh, this is this. You know.
Yeah,
I was like, fuck. So maybe that's like, I don't know. Maybe there is a curse on us, but you know. You know, and like. Yeah, I don't know. That was just what I was thinking.
Yeah, no. I think it's definitely. I think reminding yourself of that, like, and being grateful for like what we got, and just like, you know.
Yeah, man. It's kind of it's freaky being like, well, even as an artist, I'm like, oh, it seems funny, like, being like, oh, my fucking movie, man, I just really want to make my movie. So when all this crazy shit's going on, and I'm like, the audacity of this thing that's really bumming me out at night is I'm like, oh, I just want to like be a famous, successful movie director. The fucking audacity of that, it's like, just fucking be a human, care about other fucking humans, and like, try not to be a cunt, and then like, don't make it worse for anyone else, and you've succeeded,
Do you see that as like your religion? Those things you just said. Like, is that what you live?
Yeah, I guess so. I think I'm trying to like, I don't know, like I try to connect more with my family, and trying to like.
Because are they still in New Zealand?
Yeah, they're still in New Zealand, but I catch up with my sister, like a bit, and like we went to just go see ZZ Top the other night, and we fucking took a bunch of coke and we're partying up the front and stuff. So I'm like, this is some positive family time,
That's great.
So
doing coke with your sister.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just another way, like what we were saying before about the disconnect from all these different levels and this existential fucking disconnection and loneliness. I think that's something that I'm trying to like click my way through and be like, right, like I want to get into hunting. So I've got like a mate who's like goes hunting with like a bow and arrow, and we want to go out and like go out bush and like go, so I'd just be on the land and sort of connect to that a little bit, even if it is by killing a creature. It's like I don't know, it feels like there's all these things that we're kind of missing a bit.
Yeah, man. Like, also, like I think seasons, like we don't even like any food you want is in the stores like 24/7 365, like whereas like you live off the land and shit, like there'd be seasons where you're not having this fruit or vegetable, we sort of forget like what are some of like just basic shit like that. I feel like
we're like little babies, we've got no fucking skills or anything, it's like, and there's all these new skills that are popping up, that are just nothing, like a fucking real estate agent, what is that? It's like it's like, well, it's all these like bureaucratic middlemen, and it's just like none of it's real. It's just, I just hate real estate agents.
I haven't thought too much. selling shit. It's interesting, man. But I guess like when you're saying like about your writing or the sort of film ideas that are probably constantly going on in your head, like they're not going to go anywhere. Like I feel like, do you feel like that for creators or yourself? Like those ideas are just like lingering. There's nothing like there's no.
I do think, like one thing that terrifies me is when you see dudes in their late 40s and 50s doing real cringy ass music, and you're just like, they just were cool back in the day, and then you get older and you just assume you're still cool. And then you're really not cool. And people just assume that because you have something at one point, then you just continue to have that. And I think, especially in music, you see a lot of people that they get older and just they're like touring the same album or whatever. Do you mean like they're making films and you're like, you've jumped the shark, So I do think maybe there is a window where you have this urgency, or like you have new experiences. Like I think I've had like quite an eventful life up until now, and I think I'm pulling a lot from that. And I reckon I got another fucking 15 years of just like 10 years of like being able to make creative shit out of that. And I'm like, but I just need new shit, maybe having kids or whatever. I think I was just it's been a pretty eventful life up until now, and I think that has helped.
Because it feels like it to me, like you've talked about it too, but like you've slowed down a little bit, and you're really like reflecting on those the past stories, the things you've gone through, like when you were squatting through Europe or all that.
I'm thinking about the New Zealand punk scene a lot lately as well, and
like when you grew up around that shit.
And I was like, I think the New Zealand punk scene's like it's really hectic, man. Like the way we sort of grew up was like, I think there's a lot of people that were dealing with a lot of like pretty intense trauma and shit, and they were dealing with it through like self-destruction and stuff. And I've heard people say that it was like people that were in it that were saying that it's about getting as close to death without passing over, and it's trying to like doing things like I've seen people sitting around like rubbing alcohol and stuff to get wasted, or like people that are just like 19-year-old kids who've got the shakes because they've got alcohol withdrawals, and they're drinking Listerine on a Saturday morning because by themselves, like you just walk down, they're drinking Listerine with their hands shaking and stuff. And it's like, I think, or like fucking taking cancer medication from dead relatives and stuff like that on a Friday night. I think it's just like, it's a real, I didn't realize it at the time, but I think all the people that were the most sort of punk in my eyes were the people that were dealing with the most shit. And I'm thinking back on that, and I'm like, fuck, there was some really like pretty full on stuff going on. And it was like, you know, people carrying guns around and stuff, and like, you know, so I was like, so I think I've been reflecting on that a bit lately, and it's, you know, it was informed a lot of what I do, but I feel like, I think, you know, a few people out there that needed to work through their shit, and maybe punk was a real bad thing that they got into, you know, like,
They can be a positive outlet too, instead of like, you know, I think that's what's so good about the hardcore scene, punk scene, like well, you know,
my whole life has been interesting because of punk, you know.
Is that what you feel? Yeah,
because I think like,
what do you think it is, like when you think of punk and like what that is and all that shit?
Well, I think there's just something in it that just grabs certain people. It's a certain type of person that you hear it and it just moves something in you, like where you just go, oh, that's like, it's something on a real primal level, and you first hear it and it just, more than any other genre of music I've ever heard, there's things that you resonate with, like country music or something, sort of singer-songwriter things that are moving and whatever, but there's something in punk where it's more than that. And I think there's something, it's just this urgency and this excitement that, like, when you hear it, if you hear it and you have the thing in you that makes you a punk, you can't deny it. You know, it's like it's like a type of human, I think, that really gravitates towards it. And I think even now, like, I'll be listening to like music all the time, and then every now and again I'll chuck on like Crass or something, and I just go fuck. I still like, and you're just like, it feels like I still fucking love punk, but I think there's like a self-destructiveness in it that's like, you know, I think it's, you know, I think it's a creative urge, you know. I think, like they say, like, destruction is a creative urge, but it's kind of the laziest one as well, you know. I think but I still love punk, but it's
still part of you. Well, I guess you're bringing it in different ways, like, because I feel like you can see like a film or music video, whatever it is, or a book, and be like, that's punk too. Like, it doesn't have to be always like. Do you feel like, I don't know? Like,
I think so.
Like, there's definitely, of course, like punk, what it is, but like when you might be a passage in a book, or like, I don't know.
Like, I look at Alan Clark films and I'm like, that's punk. Yeah, you know, he's a punk filmmaker. You know, like even like not made in Britain. You know, even his other just working class British sort of ones, like that's
Mike
like,
Leigh stuff. I remember you talked about Mike Leigh.
And it's like it feels like just that real grimy, nihilistic working class sort of. There's a film called Road that Alan Clark made, and it's just like, that's punk, man. It's just so dingy, and it's almost like sludge music. It's like so heavy, and it's like, but it's got this urgency and vibrancy to it that I think's like, it's mad. So I think things can have a punk vibe to them. I think there's like a vibration to whatever it is in punk that I still love. But it's I run an Instagram page called New Zealand Punks and Skins. And
oh really? I didn't even know that. Like, I gotta check it out.
Give it a follow. But I've just collected like photos from like, I think there's like a few hundred photos of it from like the 70s until the 2020s of just wild, crazy shit. And you can kind of get a vibe of how wild it was. It was like, you know, I think there's like, there's a lot of intense characters, you know. But I think that there's something exciting in that when you're like, I remember being like 20 years old, and I was talking to this dude at a party, and I was just chatting away to him, and we were talking like me and you are, and then this gun barrel just goes bonk down on my shoulder, and it's pointing at this dude's face, and I turn around and go, what the fuck? And it's this dude, and he's like, I knew who he was, but he's been to prison for murdering a guy with a hammer. He was this real intense fucking dude, and I was just like, and then I was like, fuck, you're a scary motherfucker, man. And and then he goes, and he's laughing about it. He's pissed out of his mind. And he gets the gun and he points it up to a light bulb, and he goes, and blasts. It was a rifle, but he blasts the light out with this gun, and then the room just goes black, and then someone just gets on a chair and just like changes the light bulb, and everyone just keeps going on the bed. Incredible. And then he goes into another room, and we're just chatting away, and we hear bang, and
man, you gotta
blown out there.
That's incredible. Even just picturing it, you gotta make that into a scene. He
was amazing. He was fucking mad, that dude.
So just stories like that, man.
It was like everyone sort of like was trying to outdo each other for who could be the fucking craziest, and it got pretty wild, you know. Like, there was a dude who, like, he just disappeared for a while. We didn't know where he went, and he'd like gone down to Papamoa, and he'd like robbed a butchery, and then he'd taken all the meat that he stole and sold it around Papamoa, made all this money, spent it all on meth, and then smoked meth for ages, and then just hitchhiked back up to Auckland. And then he was like, "Oh, where you been?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, just been." Just this like, like a real side mission, you know, like he's just gone rogue. But just these real intense people. But that's so interesting though. And like, I think I don't know.
Do you draw from those like characters when you draw? Like not those people you remember. Do you think much about?
Yeah, definitely. There's a few stories that people have told me. Like there's a story my friend John told me about. He was friends with this chick. She was a prostitute, and his friend was good friends of her, and so they were mates and they'd hang out a bit. And then one day, some guy came in, just like assaulted her in the where she worked. And then he came back a second time, and there was this guy that was looking after her, and he heard that this guy had come back to see her, and he goes in with a fucking crowbar, and he pulls the guy's pants down and pulls it up his ass, and he drags him down the stairs with a crowbar, like up his ass. Yeah, it was like, jeez, and this is and my friend went round to the place, like, and he just saw just that the walls were just like, it's gruesome, you know. So can you imagine how painful that would be? That was just all these like people that you kind of get in contact through punk, and I think stories like that, like I put that story in the book, you know. I didn't even know their names, so I didn't have to change names, but there was like just a few things like that where you just go like, the specificity of it just feels real when you're reading a book, you know. Wow.
That's incredible. So you're drawing a lot from that.
I think there's like, but I think it's a short-term thing. I don't think you can do it for too long without going a bit crazy, you know. I think so. And at the end of the day, I got in the New Zealand punk scene when I was like 16, and then I left to France when I was like 21, so that's 16, 17, 18, 19, it's only 5 years, you know, so. And
that much, so dense of
and 5 years, like, last time I spoke to you was like 2.5 years
ago. So you would have already had
half that time.
Two crowbar stories in there.
Yeah, I feel like my life is just the years, you know, like, I feel like time is slowing down, but years are speeding up. You know what I mean?
Because even at the Blind Boy gig, I was reflecting on and thinking about it a lot when you just were saying like, because you started going to the acting. That might be something good to talk about too, like the acting school, and how you were saying like, man, I always feel like the oldest in the room, and age, and like playing, not that you're older or anything, but you know, like you had those thoughts, like everyone does at certain points of like feeling old and like having to rush maybe things, or like, did you want to talk on that? Because I was when you told me that, I just like I was thinking about it for a bit. I don't know.
It's fucking weird getting old, man. Like, you know, I was always young, and then I woke up and I was old. You know, like I go to work, and then the guy that runs the company is fucking younger than me. You know, and like all the guys I work with, like there's a new guy that just started at our painting company, and he's like 21 or something, and I'm like 21. So that means 10 years ago he was 11. You know, and that means like he was born in 2025 now, so he was born in 2004. You know, like, is that right? Yeah. And I'm like 2004. I was like fucking playing. I played my first gig in 2004. You know, I was like, it's like it's speeding up, man. You know, like I'm almost halfway through this, you know, which is kind of crazy. You know, I think you know, someone's gonna be watching this who's like, you know, in their 40s, being like, shut the fuck up. You know? But it's I'm feeling the time's moving on pretty hard. You know, like but the acting course has been great. How did you find?
Do you feel like that has changed the way you go into filmmaking and your relationship with people you work with, that you're filming, like actors and that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, like last night actually, day before yesterday, I get a call from one of the heads of VCA, and he calls me up and he goes, what are you doing? What are you doing tomorrow night? And I was like, oh, you know, no plans. And he goes, okay, well, there's this acting group that we have of like 10 actors, and they sort of come together, and like, because they're frustrated with the only times they ever get to work together is at auditions or on set, so they want to just like keep the muscle memory going. So he goes, so yeah, if you wanted to come out and help out, that'd be great. I was like, yeah, fucking of course. And then I get an email like the day before, so it was 2 days before, I get an email the day before, and it's like 3 scenes, and he's like, all right, so if you get there at this time, and then the actors will get here at this time. And I go, wait, are you going to be there? And he's like, no. And I was like, wait, am I running this? And he's like, yeah.
Oh,
so I had to like run this night. Everyone turned up and I was like, hello, I'm back in. And then I had to like direct all these actors in the scene, and we worked through these scenes and like getting them to help find the characters and stuff. And he chopped me in the deep end pretty hard because I like, you know, I only saw the 3 scenes and read through them like the night before. But it was super interesting. And then talking to people and being like, so how would your character feel about this? And then, you know, like I think, you know, going back to Mike Lee again, I think he had like a theatre background, and I think I'm starting to like get interested in that a bit. Like I did a course at 16th Street, the acting studio. Yeah. And just to get a feel of what it's like to be an actor being directed. So just to get a feel of the other side. Because
then it changed the way your relationship with people you work with and now compared to maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. I go, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. You know, like when I was working with actors, I'd just be like, all right, here's the script. All right, yeah, just maybe do it again. Or I'd say really unhelpful shit. Like I'd be like, you know, can we do it more intense? I was like, what does intense mean? You know, that's such an unhelpful word. Or it'd be like, all right, so we're just a bit faster. Or like, so come in the room and then come to here and then talk to this person. It's like, why are they standing there? Like why? Like what emotion do they have? Like, what's the vibe of this? Like, what are they trying to get out of the other person? Who are they as a person? Like, and I think when you go, you know, when you say to someone something like, you know, you might be like, all right, I want you to make the other person feel sympathy for you, which is like, okay, well, how? You know, like, do you want them to pity you? Or like that's one really specific emotion, or do you want to shame them into like feeling this to sympathy for you? Or like there's so many different ways through it, and I think it's just like it's learning the language of how to work with actors, which has been really helpful. So we did that a bit last night, which is fucking super interesting. And then I'm gonna do like there's like a year-long course where it's kind of like an apprenticeship, and that's starting in like a month or so. Where I'm working with theatre directors, and we're gonna like work on directing people on plays and things like that. So I'm starting that pretty soon, which I'm like.
So it's really giving you so many different lenses and just like that you didn't have. Like it's just like building on what.
Yeah, and
like your filmmaking and shit.
Yeah, and I think like theatre is just film without cameras. So I'm open to that as well
because I think theatre too, you have to give everything every night because it's not recorded. Like you're giving everything to the crowd that is there. Then
and you have to go from the start all the way to the end.
Yeah. There's no retake.
Yeah.
Like you're on there, like, you know.
So because I think that is an important thing as a creative person, is to go, why do I do this? You know, like if you're a musician, you go, all right, well, what is it about music that I love? You know, if maybe music's not really working out for you, you go, what is it about music that I love? Is it that you're performing? And you go, well, maybe you'd be an actor. Or is it that I'm writing? And I say, well, maybe be a writer. Or is it that I'm like, you know, or is it that I'm with a group of people and we're creating something together, and then you're like, oh, that could be filmmaking. You know, it's like you can find out what it is about it that you enjoy, and then it translates to other shit. So I think if I'm not really interested in fucking technological shit, like, we're gonna get this many lumens light over here and we're gonna project this. So it's interesting and it's important to understand that, but I don't really give a fuck about it. You know, I do, but I don't. You know, I think I'm more interested in like storytelling and
people and the rawness and shit.
Getting the emotion of these people across. And so I think like theatre is something I'm like, fucking why not? So I think, I want to get better at that, and I want to, you know, like be able to help people become the person. And I think, Mike Lee and Alan Clark do that so well. Those early British directors are so fucking. Yeah,
I gotta watch more. I don't think I've seen an Alan Clark film. I think I've seen a couple Mike Lee ones. I think Naked and Meantime maybe.
Yeah. Made in Britain's pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Skinhead Dude. And then there's I thought Road was really good. I thought it was cool. Elephant, you know. Elephant's more of an art film, but I'd steal a lot of stuff from it. Some of these films.
Yeah, because I remember that was the other thing I was gonna, like how you say like you'll watch films and you'll write down. Because it's always like you're referencing old, and everyone, like I think of hip hop when they sample like going back to the old soul shit, and then but like when you're watching films, are you always like you sort of mention?
You gotta be a thief, man. You gotta be like a master thief, and I think like when I'm writing, if I'm stealing from 10 different styles of writer, then you have your own thing. But if you're stealing from one type of writer, then you're a fraud. You know? I think
so it's like everything. I think
you gotta be like, this is a little bit of this, and then the more you it's just slowly like mashing up all these different influences.
And then it becomes you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then no one can, yeah.
Every now and again, I think you see or hear something and you're like, it's like a resonation, and you go, oh, that's me. I can see myself in that. You go, oh, you might hear a song and you go, that is the frequency of me. You know,
yeah, it's funny how
you see a painting and you go, pretty cool painting. What the fuck is that? Is fucking me. And then I think you just collect everything that you connect with. And then after a while, you get like a mood board of who, you know, what is that starter pack? You know, James Gorter starter pack. It's just like
Mike Lee, fucking New Zealand punk scene. yeah, that's funny, man. Yeah, I think about like even like I think I saw one recently of like Tarantino, how he took from like in Pulp Fiction that dance scene, and that was in 8.5. That Fellini film. Like just think, you know, that like you've probably seen that 8.5. There's that dance scene, and just hearing that was like I mean, there's multiple. You could go on about referencing, but it's funny how people take and
if you're any good, and someone good will steal from you.
Yeah,
that's the goal, right?
Get imitated. Yeah,
if you're no good and you're a bit shit, then it goes nowhere and it ends with you. Or if you're any good, then someone will steal from you in the future.
And it keeps going from there. No, the acting thing's cool, man. It's been like, it's the funny thing about acting is like you realize how much you're acting all the time, you know, like, I'm that's
just
the
like,
point.
So I was like, we had this one exercise and we were walking around the room, and she goes, all right, so now we're walking around the space and you're heading to a place that you are unprepared for, and you don't want to be there, and you're running late. And we're walking around the room and we're just like heads down, shoulders are sort of hunched forward, and you're like, oh, like this, and you're not making eye contact with people. And she goes, all right, now when you're walking around, you're on time, you're completely prepared, and you're like, and everything is completely organized, and you put your shoulders back, and you don't even mean to, you subconsciously do it. And then you're walking around like this, and then she goes, all right, now come back to the circle, and you come back to the circle, and then I go, oh, who I am is like this. I got a frowny fucking resting bitch face, and I have my shoulders slightly hunched, and I realized that my posture's got nothing to do with holding my back straight. It's about how I'm thinking about, about like whether you're open to people or if you're just like slightly closed off. You know, it's like a boxing thing, and it's like a defensive.
Because when we're talking to people, we're taking in so much like we don't even realize how much it's body language and shit.
I'm acting all the time. I'm acting right now. Like, do you think I talk like this to my girlfriend? No way. I'm just fighting in front of her and just saying all this dad jokes
it's
and
funny
stuff.
How people got like that.
I'm just like, please take me seriously as a filmmaker.
Like you need it.
We're all full of shit. Yeah.
I mean, you have to like. It's
it's true. That is true. This is me, but
I know. There's different land. Like we all have different masks that we put. Like it's weird, man.
If I spoke like this to my girlfriend, she would have broken up with me. She's like, I had a big day at work, and I'm like, oh man, have you ever think about do you ever think about like how fucking the universe sounds like fucking the Baha man.
But I guess if you can find someone where you're most yourself, that's when you win. You know, when you can.
But who are we?
Well, who even are we, bro? You can go fucking.
I'm impressed if anyone makes it to the end of this podcast.
What's that?
I'm impressed if anyone makes it to the end of this podcast. I'm sorry, guys.
I think it's good. That's interesting, man. So it's made you reflect more, like the acting stuff's even on yourself. It's not just like
I'm like, I've never been more like thinking about who I am.
Really?
than like the last.
What is it? Because like you're always having a
I'm just I don't know. I keep coming back to it. I'm just trying to like be. Maybe it's because I'm like, all right, if I'm going to be a dad, I want to be someone who's worthy of being a dad. You know, like someone who's worthy of bringing a kid up. I don't want to be some dude who's like dressing like shit and he's like hasn't got his stuff together and he's like, I don't know, like disrespectful to people or like, you know, like getting pissed or whatever. You know, like I think I want to be a person who would be like, you know, a good. I don't know. Like if I don't take myself seriously, who the fuck else is going to take me seriously? You know? So I think I've just been trying to just like pull my head in a little bit, and I think surrounding myself with people that like make me feel good. I got this thing. I call it like this like friendship test that I have in my head, and I feel like anyone can do it. Where you hang out with someone, and then the day after you hang out with them, how do you feel about yourself? And if you feel good and you feel enriched and you feel like, I love seeing that person, I'm such a good person. Or if you feel kind of shit about yourself and you feel a bit like anxious, or you feel a bit like it's kind of
off center or something,
like then they're probably not a good mate. And if maybe it might happen once or twice because they're in a bad space, but if it happens every time, then I gotta go, man. You know?
Yeah,
so I think
that's a really good, man. Because you get a vibe from everyone.
Yeah, and there might be there's people I've known for fucking years, and you just go, you know what? Every time I hang out with you, I feel like really bad about myself after. So you just go like,
and they're the hardest ones to cut because it's that like you just with someone maybe because of consistency, and you just sort of go with it. Yeah. And then one day you realize like that.
Yeah,
it's
and
hard.
hang out with people that make you feel good, and then you come away from it and you go, oh fuck, you know, not that bad. You know? And then they make you want to be better. You know. So,
So it's a good way. Yeah, I often think about that because you feel a certain way after.
It's scary as a fucking mid-30s person to be cutting people off though, because it's like you're like when you go out in your 20s and you go out on a Friday or Saturday night and you hang out with like 20 people and you have a few beers and you have chats with 20 people and you can maintain 20 friendships because you're seeing them twice a week. 20 people.
It's like and it's lighthearted talk. It's not so like
and then you can maintain that many friendships and stuff, and then you get into your 30s and you're not going out and partying and getting pissed anymore. So you go, all right, I'm booking in on Thursday. I'm seeing Troy and we're gonna have a chat, and then I might not see them again for another fucking month. Because you've seen someone else. I'm seeing Rory the next week, or I'm seeing Julia or the week after that, and then you have these good friendships and they're close and you're regularly catching up with them. But so it's kind of scary to be like, you just go, oh fuck, I've got like 5 mates, which is kind of like it's like it's just kind of terrifying. So it's a weird thing about getting older, man.
But it's better to have it that way than I mean, I always go back to the social media thing, but like you could feel like you've got 100 people on there, but how many people are actually like genuine with you, or do you ever
go on Instagram and you're flicking through it and there's a group photo and you go, who do I know in this photo? And you go, and you can't recognize any of them, and then you flick through and you go, oh, who the fuck is that? And then you don't recognize, and you get the 4th photo and you go, oh, I think that was that person I worked with, and you just go, why am I seeing a photo of them and all their friends?
It's
I
tricky,
feel like I'm invasive, like I shouldn't be seeing this photo of you and your friends, because I fucking, or like if it was your birthday, I'd feel weird saying happy birthday to you as a message. I shouldn't be fucking seeing
photos. So you're going through that. Do you think like solitude's a big part of like all this that you've sort of been mentioning and talking about on the reflecting part? Because I feel like when you are maybe in a state of like not being able to sit with this all or have your own time, or you're not sort of getting to these realizations. Like would you say for everyone?
I get up in the morning and I like go for a run. And then I do that every morning. And I run down to the pier and back, and then I come back and have a cold shower and take some fucking microdose, some mushrooms.
Bro, you're on like some
every day. I'm like Joe Rogan. I'm like Joe Rogan. I have to say that.
Just shave your head soon. Dude. Start fucking.
It's so annoying that he's into that shit.
I know, because every time like
it's so good for you.
Yeah, I know.
And then I like sit out the back and I make a coffee and I just sit out on the back deck for half an hour every morning and I run inside and just sit there and just think. But usually it's real good because you got your endorphins, and sometimes you just go, just have half an hour to just think, man. And it's like, that's like more than most people get in a week.
Yeah, man. That's you got that routine on lock
every day, man.
Is that just your mental health?
100% mental health, and it's good for the puku as well.
That's great, man.
So it's like I think it's important to have a bit of time to reflect on it. Sometimes it can be bad, I think, because you don't want to over reflect and
and go too much. Did you ever do therapy or anything? Because I often think about that myself. Was that ever something? Or?
Yeah, I did once, like a couple of times. But I was just like, and I thought like elements of it were super helpful. Like there was a couple of things where, like coping mechanisms and all that sort of shit that I thought were like were helpful and stuff. And I think in general it's just like, I don't know. I'd be open to doing it. For sure. I think especially dudes are real bad at talking about shit. I think 100%. I think like I look at like my girlfriend and like one of her friends like broke up with their partner or what, and then like they all like went around there and bought her flowers, and then they like watched a movie together and they had like a cheese board and all just sat there together, and she like cried and stuff, and I was like fuck, dudes would never do that. I had a mate break up with his girlfriend, and then I was like, oh, how are you doing? And he's like yeah, real bad. And I was just like, what do I say now? I hope you feel better.
It's weird how we
trying to have a beer, it's
like breaking those barriers a bit,
It's not even about barriers. It's like I think as a dude, it's like knowledge that we don't have. I think it's not even like I wasn't trying to be like some tough guy. I was just like, I don't actually know what to say. I want to be like, all right, well, there.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like it's tricky, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I think like men are so far behind women on that sort of stuff. We're fucking I think even that's why I don't know. I reckon I know like 6 dudes that have killed themselves, you know, and I think like and they're still doing it. It's still happening regularly as well, especially Kiwi guys.
Yeah, man.
It's like it happens all the time, and I think it's like kind of what we were talking about before, that existential loneliness of just, you know, cutting off from like spirituality and community and family and things that tie you to other people, so that like you know, you're just left there with just yourself. And I think you know, you have to be connected to other shit and you get this sort of sense of who the fuck you are. And I think I think women have really strong communities a bit more than, and you know, men are like, we're terrified about someone thinking we're a pussy, you know. Like, it's just like, you know, we're like,
or being vulnerable and talking about some shit.
And being like, oh, yeah. So I don't know. It's something I'm trying to stop doing, you know. Like, I think, you know, like in the punk scene, I think it was like, you know, definitely that. Like I remember this one dude. He was like, it just popped into my mind just the other day, and like this guy's dead now, but he was like, we were sitting around in the lounge, and he was hungover, and he goes, oh, do you guys ever get that thing, you know, when you're real hungover and your brain's just like, oh, you know, just kill yourself. Do you ever get that? You know, when you just, it's like you're not saying it, but there's another voice. Do you ever get that? And everyone's like, no. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it then. And everyone didn't follow it up. No one followed that up. Everyone's like, whoa, that was crazy. He said that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah.
And you remembered that, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, no, he's dead. You know, and it's like, I was like, fuck, we were so like, everyone was going through so much, and then
that
like,
didn't even register.
Yeah, everyone's like, whoa, what a crazy guy.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like, yeah. And it's like, fuck, that was, you know, I don't know like what you could have said to him, but it's just like, yeah, I think it was kind of sad that we just like let that moment pass, you know. Not that you could be like, yo, you should go to therapy. He would have been like, no, what are you talking about? You know, so, but I don't know. But yeah, it's a real issue, I think.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Especially I think, you know, young men, like 20, 30, where it is that like you're trying to find yourself and shit like that. It can be pretty lonely nowadays, like especially like just being isolated. And
I feel really sorry for fucking people in their 20s now, man. Like even me growing up with fucking, you know, like now being a fully grown person with Instagram, I'm like,
it's complicated.
So yeah, my sister, she pointed out, she goes, you pull out your phone and you're just seeing everyone you know having a good time and you're not there. I was like, fuck, that's pretty like,
that's what it is.
That's an interesting way of putting it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're flicking through and you go, oh, here's this friend and I'm not there and they're having fun, and there's something kind of funny about that. And I was like, this is something that's interesting. It's so fucking bad for all this stuff, I think.
Yeah, man. But yeah, it's always like that.
People might see this on Instagram.
Yeah. Fucking little clip. Yeah. But I think like, but I mean, the way I see it, like the way you use it too, I mean, you're doing it for your creative stuff. Like, there's got to be some way of putting it out, and I mean, that's the positive.
Yeah, I need it for my film.
Yeah,
you know,
and
like,
that's the positive, I guess, of it. There is that side of like being able to follow creatives. And
and like, this is why we were having this chat. With Instagram. That's how I got in contact with Jim from Civic. That's how I got in contact with Grace. That's how Grace's manager.
That's what I'm. Yeah,
it's like sad, man. It's like our only way, but you know, that's all we got, and it's like it can be a really helpful tool, I think. Yeah, it's
how you use anything,
Like, it's so addictive, man. And you're like at work, and you're just like, you know, you got 5 seconds, and you know, you're like, oh, you just pull out my phone. And you're just like, oh, there's a kid with his head blown off, and you're like, Jesus, what am I supposed to do? You know, like, it's so.
It's just like that constant consume. I just think of like, I wonder like, for yourself, like, I mean, for anyone, of course, but especially if you're creating something, like those things coming at you, like, because it's like constant. Because I think like. I think I saw this thing too of like when we consume so much, our brain tricks us into think that we're like in that creative mode, but we're not. Yeah, totally. Like, I don't know, there was some word for it, but I remember like, you know, when you're like, what you think, but you're just consuming, you're not actually putting. That's why I think
it's not the back and forth. It's just the like, you're just like being stimulated, and it's like, but even we'll be watching TV on the couch, and we'll be watching like a, you know, like we've been watching Anthony Bourdain heaps lately. We're watching one of those.
Parts Unknown.
So
he's amazing.
We're watching that, and then we're falling asleep, and it's 10 minutes to go to the episode, and we're just like, ooh, like falling, and then we go to bed, and then we just look at our phones, and we can look at our phones for 20 minutes without getting sleepy, and you're just like, you don't remember what you're looking at. It's just like.
I think it's so important having boundaries. Like, I've been thinking about that lately. Like, I have to put it in place, or else you just get caught. Like, you literally have to just put it, or else like
And
if you give it leeway, I feel like it's just like endless.
And sometimes I look at shit I know is going to piss me off. Like, I look at comments, like I'm flicking through comments, and I'm just like, oh, fuck you. And I'm like, good comment, boring. There's a shitty comment, like, and then I look at their page and I'm like, oh, fuck that person.
And then all this hate and like divide and shit.
It's terrible.
Yeah, man. Lots to reflect on.
Yeah.
So what's sort of next for you, like filmmaking wise? Have you been working on? I mean, obviously there was a Civic thing. And has it been
filmmaking wise? The Civic thing. So if any donations would be great. Or like, if anyone, I don't know, like I just need help with like a producer or something. Like a decent producer is like so much what I need. Just someone who can help me, like, they're like how to get certain types of grants or how to fucking contact certain types of people, because I can make cool stuff. But I just getting that feels like the missing piece for me.
Is that always the hardest part?
I got dudes that I work with that are producers, and it's like, but we need someone who's just like a little bit sort of further on, that's like got these like skills to that sort of shit. But yeah, anyway, stuff coming up. We got the Amyl video. We got Civic doco, which is like I'm pretty excited about. What else? I don't know. Just writing. I got like this thing for this brand. It's like a hip hop crew like down in Frankston that got me to do a thing for them, so we're doing that coming up soon, which I'm pretty excited about, which is cool. And
homebrew shit.
And
Tom Scott.
So we're doing that, and then and I'm just writing, man. I'm just writing so fucking much. So I think the goal is to sort of like, well, I don't know, maybe within a year, like have this book finished, and then I want to put that out. And
that'd be incredible. I can't wait.
I'm so excited about it. It's just like, I feel like it's like just my whole life and all my thoughts and anything, but it's in this like real, like it starts off here and then it just builds up into this crazy end, and it just keeps ramping up, and it feels like sort of a bit of a fever dream at the end in a good way. Like I think it's not, something I'm proud of. I've never worked as hard on anything. Have you been also? Do you still read a lot while you've been you've been writing? I just wonder if that's really helpful. Like I read a book called Lanny recently, which is really good. That influenced sort of one of the characters a lot. And then there was like the 20 Days of Turin, which is reading, which is my friend John lent to me, which has been like fucking. That's been really good as well. It's about this, the city Turin, and there's like 20 days where everyone just goes completely mad. And like there's all these people start just murdering each other, and they don't know why it's happened, and then this guy's gone there to like interview people and try to find out why everyone's completely.
What's it called? I have to check it out.
20 Days of Turin. It's like it's such a weird book, and it's so interesting. But I've been reading that. I read like
you got Houston.
Lonesome Dove. I just read that recently. That was really good. I really recommend that.
I'm trying to think of one. I haven't gotten into Cormac McCarthy yet.
Oh, he's mad.
I love Murakami.
I don't know. But
but everything.
Keep me busy, and like I'm a real slow reader. I'm just like, that's why I got to do it my Mondays and Wednesdays, because otherwise, or like when we go away camping or something like that, because I'll lie in bed and I was like,
So you got a bit coming up, man. It's inspiring.
I got a bit coming up, but I think like, it's just sort of, I think it's like pivoting well, and like to go from here, and if that comes. You sort of do it as much as you can. Like I think there's only so many more music videos I've got in me. I think I'm just gonna like sort of push, and I think 16th Street and with theatre and stuff like that, I think would be quite interesting, or like writing, and then I just want to do like a narrative. Like I just want to do a narrative film, which is like something that I've written because I enjoy writing so much. So,
mad man. And I guess the last question, I've been sort of leaving it with most people, is like advice for your younger self, or advice. Young creative, young filmmakers, and because I don't think I asked you that last time. I think it'd be a good way to end it.
I think, and it also goes with punk or anything. I think you don't owe anyone anything. Like if something doesn't feel right to you, then fuck it off. Like if you just follow what feels natural to yourself, and then I think you don't owe anyone anything, especially if you're like expressing yourself. Like you can't let that be tarnished by like how you're expected to be. And I think it's a waste of yourself to try to be someone else, because that person's already done it. Don't try to emulate someone else, like, because the most interesting thing about you is yourself. And then like you're valid as well. Like anyone that watches this is as valid as you, as me, as fucking as well as any creative person out there. It's like if you're being truthful, I think you're valid, and then So yeah, just do it. Be part of the conversation.
I think that's a beautiful way to end it, man. Thanks so much for we'll put some links in, and hope that people can check out and help out with the Civic stuff. And
respect, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Thanks James.